So I would say that Commissioner Bernstein, as soon as you're ready to begin, we can start. I think the Vice President Grossberg said he would just be late, so we could start without him.
Okay, great. All right, let's start this. Time is it? What's 4:01? The facility committee meeting of the Partridge of Highland Park is called to order on Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021 at 4:01 p.m. Pursuant to Section 7E of the Open Meetings Act, the president of the Board of the Park Commissioners has made a finding that it is not practical or prudent to hold an in-person meetings because of COVID-19 public health emergency. Neither the elected officials nor the public will be allowed to attend regular or committee meetings in person, but will participate virtually. Links to the virtual meeting can be found on the Park District website. Roxanne, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein,
Here.
Commissioner Freeman,
Here.
Commissioner Kaplan,
Here.
President Ruttenberg.
I'm here.
We have 4 commissioners present. Excuse me. We have 3 commissioners present and the president of the Park Board. So we have a quorum, so we can move forward. The next item on the agenda is additions to the agenda. Executive Director Romes, are there any additions to the agenda?
No, there are not.
Great. Next item on the agenda is the public comment for items on the agenda. Executive Director Romes, is there anyone from the public attending tonight's meeting, or excuse me, this afternoon's meeting?
There is one person registered, but they are not attending at the moment. So if something pops up, I can let you know, but currently there is nobody attending the meeting.
Okay, so will you be telling us, or Roxanne will be telling us if someone, if there's an attendee?
One of us will let you know.
Okay, just one of you flag me and let me know if the attendee decides to show up. All right, next item. The approval of the facility committee meeting minutes from October 14th, 2021. I had an opportunity to review them and they seem fine, so I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Kaplan, a second by President Ruttenberg. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the Highland Park Golf Learning Center property name recommendation. Director Gongola to present.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. I am going to share my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
I see you.
Okay.
It said start. Here it
Oh,
goes.
we're good.
It's up now.
Good? Okay. So tonight I'm here to talk about a recommendation that we would like to make to the board. So this will be the initial presentation of this recommendation. And it is, as you all know, with the onset of COVID-19, there was a newfound interest in outdoor recreational activities, and the Highland Park Golf Learning Center was certainly the recipient of that newfound interest with their range, their camps, their lessons, and their mini golf course. And in addition to that, in next spring, spring 2022, the Preserve of Highland Park will be opening up, which is adjacent to the Highland Park Golf Learning Center. So we thought it was a great opportunity to take a look at kind of this newfound interest in the Golf Learning Center and outdoor recreation, and also looking at the opportunity that the Preserve of Highland Park might bring to this facility to enhance its brand and potentially even maximize the opportunity for more people to come to this facility. So I'm going to kind of walk through the presentation a little bit. We'll start first
Liz,
with...
before you go through it, can I just make one slight correction? I think that the heightened interest in outdoor activity plus golf is a combination of COVID plus the investment that the Park District made into Sunset Valley to make it such a more attractive facility to encourage more golfers to participate in the park district at both at the Golf Learning Center and at Sunset Valley. So it's not just COVID-19, it's also the investment that this district and the foresight that the district had to invest in their golf course.
Absolutely, you're right about that, Cal. Thank you for pointing that out, because Sunset has, certainly that investment has just, exploded the interest in golf in our area, people coming to Sunset, and that has translated over and trickled over to the Highland Park Golf Learning Center. So thank you for making that point.
Sure.
That definitely has been a huge influencer. So just to kind of look at both facilities, the Highland Park Golf Learning Center, as we know, features a driving range, mini golf course. We offer our golf lessons there, our golf summer camps, our PGA camps. We also have concessions, restrooms, and rental space available. We're looking at the new Preserve of Highland Park. Those features, it's a beautiful, unique 100-acre natural area. There'll be 5 miles of paths for walking and biking. There'll be designated picnic areas and other areas for gatherings. There'll be beautiful pond and wetland overlooks and other amenities like the pollinator garden, the nature maze, and the turtle meadow and sand area. So both really have their own unique destination amenities and features. And what we wanted to look at, is there any synergy between these two? So if you look at the Highland Park Golf Learning Center, certainly the restrooms and concessions and the amenities of the golf practice and mini golf are very unique to that facility. The Preserve of Highland Park, that large natural area for walking and other activities and passive recreation, has its own features. But together, there is a synergy because there's a physical connection. You walk across the bridge, across the river, and, if you're coming from the Golf Learning Center, you open up to this beautiful natural area where you can enjoy passive recreation, and vice versa. If you're in the preserve and you cross the bridge, that opens up a whole new opportunity for, playing around with mini golf. There are restroom amenities there, there are concession amenities, or even to hit a bucket of balls. So there definitely is that just natural physical connection. Also, what we find interesting is there is obviously a very big local connection for the target in terms of a target audience. We're seeing a lot of our residents already enjoying the preserve, and certainly, Cal, as you mentioned, we're seeing a lot of our Sunset Valley loyal golfers coming over to the preserve to practice their game and to get private lessons. So there, is that local target audience, but there also is a very regional target audience. We're seeing a lot of visitors to the Highland Park Golf Learning Center, not only from our local community, but also from other areas outside of Highland Park.
Liz, excuse me to interrupt, Liz.
Sure.
Is there another word we can use instead of target, because there's a Target next door?
It's our, let me work on that.
Okay.
Let me
All
think
right. Just
about
to make
that.
sure it's clear that we,
Yeah, our preferred audiences, or
Okay.
the audiences that we're looking to
Okay.
attract, or who seem attracted to the facilities.
Okay, thanks.
So regionally, we're seeing, a large presence of visitors coming from areas from other north suburbs, as well as northwest suburbs, and even as far south as the city. And we are assuming that the Preserve of Highland Park, because it is such a unique area, will also be a destination for people, regionally to come and visit and spend the day at the Preserve of Highland Park. So we definitely see synergies with the physical connection. Our audiences seem to be very similar, both on the local and regional level. And also, these are very family-friendly areas. These are unique destinations that if we put them together and combine them together, there are going to be more opportunities for people to spend the day and to really enjoy the great outdoors at both locations. So we see some definite synergies between the two spaces, both physically and also just in the amenities that they offer and the audiences that they will attract. So based on that, and please look at the photo with a grain of salt. This is just for demonstrative purposes. This by no means is the logo for the Golf Learning Center and Mini Golf. It is the logo for the preserve, but we just wanted to be able to kind of show you how the two work together. But our recommendation is that we rename the Highland Park Golf Learning Center and River's Edge Adventure Golf to the Preserve of Highland Park Golf Learning Center and Mini Golf. That is going to provide benefits to expand the destination opportunity. It's going to allow us to leverage our marketing to our regional base, and we'll be able to provide added amenities to the public. So any questions about that? And please, again, the picture is just to demonstrate how the preserve and the Golf Learning Center and Mini Golf could potentially work together in a visual forum. It's not by no means kind of the final logo. It's just to give you an idea.
Okay, before I turn it over to my fellow commissioners for questions, I will note that I noticed our attendee is now in the room, so to speak, or in the virtual room. So Katie, we will get to you, and with regards to if you want to address the board, we'll get, or assuming this committee, we'll let you know when the appropriate time is. So that being said, Commissioner Freeman, do you have any questions or comments?
Nope, I like well, I don't have any questions. I have a few comments. I do like pulling the amenities together as long as it's clear, you know, where to go to find each thing when you get in there. But I like it because it's it does give a little more expansive reason and opportunity to visit.
Okay, Commissioner Kaplan,
Works for me. Thank you, Liz.
President Ruttenberg.
I like the synergism with that we can use the preserve of Highland Park. I know when we picked that name, this concept of branding the whole facility was part of the thoughts we all had. My only question is, do we want to continue with the long name Golf Learning Center Mini Golf? Are there some thoughts about that might make it a little more 21st century?
I will say we had a lot of discussion, especially about Golf Learning Center. And I believe that our golf team felt very strongly that the range, the golf camps, the PGA camps, the private lessons that are offered at the Golf Learning Center and the group lessons, that really, all of those things really are comprised within a golf learning center. And that's a term that golfers tend to understand.
Okay, I accept that.
There are also several other golf learning centers in the region that also offer those same types of services.
Okay, all right, fine. Other than that, I think, and I understand the explanation, and I think that having it as, you know, under the umbrella of the preserve of Highland Park will certainly help us with our target audience.
Okay, thank you, President Ruttenberg. Did our Vice President Grossberg join us?
I am here.
Okay, do you have any
Yay.
questions or comments?
And the
What
crowd
time did you
roared.
get here, by the way, so the record can reflect?
I got here about 4:12 probably. So can you repeat the first 12 minutes for me?
Okay, sure.
Ah, ha, ha.
Okay,
No
so let the
The
record
picture
reflect
speaks for
that
itself.
Vice President Grossberg joined us at 4:12. And questions or comments or for?
No, was there one like really big thing other than this sign that, you know, that I should know from the first 12 minutes? That there's one thing.
It's basically just, we're recommending, this is the first step in the discussion of renaming the Highland Park Golf Learning Center and the River's Edge Mini Golf to the Preserve of Highland Park Golf Learning Center and Mini Golf, with the goal of using the synergistic relationships to the regional attraction of our market audience, and the interconnectivity between the two facilities. So
Okay, I guess then my only question would be, are we doing anything to the design of either the center or the mini golf to reflect it being a part of the preserve, or is it just in kind of name only?
I will say that the signage will certainly reflect it. Also, the website and any marketing materials will reflect it as well. So it will be marketed this way.
But I meant in terms of actually the design of the course, like, are we going to have more prairie type holes at the thing? Are we going to have a kind of landscaping or that's more preservish? Or is that it, like I said, is it just a name only?
I think that ultimately is the goal with everything from the entrance. As you can see there, this is a very, as Liz said before you came on, quick mock-up. This is not what you're going to see final, but from the grasses you see in the preserve area to the grasses you might see along the entrance, to the stone we might add to the sign, to the actual grasses you might see along the sidewalk and in the actual mini golf area, I think the answer is yes. If you're asking more about like an amenity standpoint, like will there be, the short answer is yes, but we don't have a big presentation to show you what that's going to look like at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple questions. First of all, I know that when we discussed originally when we discussed the preserve, there was questions regarding encouraging access from the north because of lack of parking. So my first question is with regard to encouraging access from the west, is there sufficient parking capacity and in the golf learning center area, the current golf learning center, to both support the mini golf, the driving range, and potentially people using this as an entry point into the preserve?
So we don't know obviously what our attendance will be like, but we have increased parking since we've constructed the parking area. So I think Jeff might be able to confirm, but I want to say there's about 10 to 12 additional parking spaces up by the dome area. And with that improved parking and flow, I think it's going to tremendously improve.
I don't think that's practical. With all due respect, I don't think that's practical. The people are going to, I think the legal term is schlep their clubs from the north parking lot.
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
the
You're
driving range.
saying for the golf.
So let's say, for example, on the east side of this parking lot, it fills up with people wanting to access the preserve. Is that taking away parking spaces from potential, I want to say, customers who are going to pay a lot of money? It's not cheap to be pitting golf balls there. Is that going to be taking away their parking? And is there sufficient capacity, or has an analysis been done to determine whether this parking pad can support both uses?
I think, from an analysis standpoint, this is obviously something that we considered when we looked at the optimization report.
I don't want to just, I want to see parking counts. I want to see, when you come back and bring this back, I want to be able to see that we're not trying to overtax the parking lot at the golf learning range, because again, that's been very successful. We're earning some money there. And I want to make sure that if we decide, if this is successful and the rebranding works and we're encouraging people, we're opening up this west, I'm not arguing against it. We're opening up this west access to the preserve, that we are not depriving our customers of enough parking for both mini golf and the golf driving range. That's number one.
I understand your question.
I'm not asking for an answer right now. I'm just asking the question that you guys can look into.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about it, but we can look into it.
Well, yeah, there's a lot you could do about it. You cannot do this and keep them separate so you don't have jeopardize enough parking for the people using the golf driving range.
This has already been established as an entrance to the Skokie River Woods of the preserve, so we wouldn't want to take that away.
I understand, but it's not branded that way right now. Even though it's established, quote unquote, established, by putting the preserve's name on, you're basically inviting people into this and using this as a Western entry into the preserve. Now, I'm not arguing against it. I just want to make sure that the analysis has been done.
Okay, yeah, we can give a more an answer to that in a more, I guess, in a better fashion. If you're looking for one,
I'm looking. I just want to make sure that we have enough parking capacity, because if this works out, and I think, and I have no reason not to, because I'm sure, the way our staff does things, it's going to be rebranded, and it's going to be, they'll be to create the synergy and create this wonderful entry into the preserve. But I want to make sure, just like the people to the north were concerned about people parking on the side streets there and accessing the preserve from the north, because it's going to be hugely successful because it's such a beautiful facility. And once the word gets out there that what a beautiful job the Park District has done is transforming this golf course, that I want to make sure that we've thought this through to make sure that there's enough parking there for our golf patrons. Okay, that's number one. Number two is with regard, I know that this area is still owned by the city, and we have our use and occupancy is based on an intergovernmental agreement with the city. Is that right? Is my recollection correct?
When you say use, yes. Occupancy.
Cal's just talking in legal talk. Yes, it's all governed by our intergovernmental agreement with the city.
Our uses, yes.
Okay, so the question is, do we need the city's approval for rebranding, considering they actually own the property? Is there anything that we have to do, any approvals that we need from the city?
Not from a naming perspective, but from every other perspective of the improvements that we have made, and they are made aware of this. We meet with them regularly, so they're well aware of all this. But from a name change, there's nothing in the agreement that would dictate city's approval or knowledge of a name change.
Okay, so I guess if we decide to go through with this, and I'm not arguing against it, obviously, but that we, as a courtesy, we let the city know that this is what our intent is.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
They're aware.
And then my other question is really more concern. Again, I'm not asking for an answer right now, but by putting this under the umbrella of the preserve, are you concerned at all about losing the driving range and the mini golf's identity, which potentially could hurt sales, because it's now branded the preserve of Highland Park, and then in small letters it's golf? And was that taken into account? And did you do any I guess market analysis and regarding naming? Is there other examples of golf driving ranges under the umbrella of an existing park, and just this being one aspect of the park? I mean, have you guys thought about that?
Absolutely. We've discussed that at length in regards to the identity, and the ultimate recommendation was that this would expand, as we've been talking about, to more of since they're both regionally attractions for the Park District, this would be beneficial from the standpoint of attracting more users to this area. So,
and what did you use for data to support that?
I don't know that it was data that we used.
I mean, what did you use? Did you consult with other districts who are in other parks or anything? I mean, how did you reach that conclusion? What was the methodology?
So I guess the methodology was that we looked at this site, and basically what Liz explained for the first 4 slides was the methodology of the regional attraction and how we can benefit from the synergies between the 2 sites. I mean, I think Liz went through that. Is there something that wasn't clear about that?
Well, I mean, I just want to make sure, obviously this is a balancing act. Again, this is not my area of expertise, but there's an identity. It's a separate facility. It's a money generating facility. And I just want to make sure this is, how these conclusions were reached. I get what you're trying to do is you're trying to promote the preserve. It's a wonderful facility. I've walked it. I've rode my bike through it, and I can just envision. I just want to close my eyes and go into a time machine and go in the future 5 years, and can't wait to see what it looks like in 5 years. But I just want to make sure that a full analysis was done, whether this is somehow. I see what you're trying to do to promote the preserve. I want to make sure that this also is complementary also in promoting the driving range by being under the umbrella of the preserve and how that works. Again, this is not my area of expertise. I'm just a country lawyer.
Al, you've asked some very good questions, and I think I would recommend that we let Liz provide some answers to it and just sort of let's move on.
Yeah, okay. I agree with you. I don't want to get bogged down to this, but I'll be honest, I'm not convinced. I think I need more convincing on this.
All right, and I'll just throw out there that when we named the preserve, it was an excited opportunity that the whole place would be under that umbrella. But Liz will give you some data and we'll look at it.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, and again, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to
Oh, yes, sir.
understand.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. All right, fair enough. All right, anybody else have any other questions or comments? Liz, is there anything else on this?
I do have one more slide, and this
Sure.
is just the next steps. So if, for those of you who have been part of a naming or renaming at the district, there is a policy and a procedure for renaming a facility. So following today's discussion, we'll give a formal recommendation to the board at the November regular board meeting. Then that recommendation needs to sit for at least 60 days. And we'll ask then for the board's approval for the recommended name change at the January regular board meeting. And that vote, affirmative vote, needs to be 4/5 majority of the Board of Commissioners to go forward with the renaming.
Okay, great. So I think my suggestion is, I've asked some questions. You can either, contact me directly if none of the other commissioners want to be involved. Maybe I'm spending too much time on this, but or what's the consensus of the committee? They want this to be brought back to the committee or just brought to the board? I'll poll the committee. Jen, what do you suggest?
I like the idea. I would love the data points for sure in any given, I have to assume if one person has a question, others do, but I see the value. I felt like Liz pitched it pretty well to me here, so.
Do you want it to come back to the committee or go straight to the board?
Straight to the board.
Okay, Brian?
Board.
Barney?
Board.
Okay, I guess I'm outvoted. All right. So
Wait, you forgot Terry.
Oh, Terry, I'm sorry. I forgot Terry's a late joiner. Terry?
Well, I'm not really on the committee, so I don't know what to vote, but I'm fine with it coming to the board.
Okay, great. So this will be, you can contact me and let me know. I'll try to answer my questions.
Sounds
And
good.
then I guess we'll follow through as set forth in the next step slide right here. And we'll see this, I guess, in January. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think, Cal, just for clarity, that those of us who said go straight to the board are now saying we endorse changing the name to the Preserve of Highland Park Golf Learning Center and mini golf.
Okay. And I'm just saying is I'm not sure just yet. So
I understand.
I still have to be sold.
That's
Okay.
it. Understand.
All right, great. All right. Anything else on this? I think we've kind of beaten this one down.
Mhm.
And I've made everyone mad at me, so that's okay. So the next item on the agenda is the West Ridge Center request for qualifications, the RFQ update, Manager Schwartz to present.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes, we can.
great. And do you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So I'm here to provide an update on where we're at with the request for qualifications process for the new community center at Westridge Park. A lot has happened since our last facility committee. We issued the RFQ and we received 13 qualification packets back, and we've reviewed them. So I'm going to give an update of where we're at and our next steps. And here we go. So just as a reminder, here's the RFQ schedule. You can see the check marks on the right, the green check marks. So we've, like I said, we've issued the RFQs, we've received the submittals, and we had a team internally review those. The team included staff from the planning department, communications and marketing, and recreation, as well as our executive director. And we have whittled it down to 4 finalists, and we will share those with you now. So our 4 finalists are Highland Root, Woodhouse Tanucci Architects, Williams Architects and Aquatics, and White and Company. Our RFQ specified our criteria, our evaluation criteria, which included, I'm going to read some of them. Organization and completeness of submittal, demonstrated understanding of the project. We asked for representative projects experience, sustainable design, firm size, familiarity with working with park districts, and their proposed plan for approaching this project. And so our team scored those and then met to discuss. And that was how we came down to these 4 finalists. And so I'll share some of the highlights of why we chose these 4.
Before we do that, can I ask one question that I'm
Sure.
not clear on?
Sure.
I don't remember. I think I may have seen the request for qualification. Did we specify to them that we want a project that consists of classrooms, gymnasium, offices, etc.?
Yes.
I just don't know what we asked them to do.
Sure. Yeah. So at this stage, we're just doing qualifications, but we did give them that broad scope of what we were looking to do, which included a building that looked at, it incorporates administrative offices, general recreation, dance, arts, early childhood, multi-purpose spaces, and then gymnastics.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So Highland Root, we chose them. They had a mission-driven approach. Their data-driven approach really had them stand out. They had their sustainability qualifications stood out, as well as their innovative designs. Woodhouse Tanucci Architects, they had a very thoughtful approach to this project. They have experience working with our park district and with the Highland Park community. Again, their sustainability stood out, their innovative designs, and extensive relevant experience. Most recently, the Robert Crown Center in Evanston and the NSSRA building on Lake Cook. White and Company, experience with our school district, North Shore School District 112, and the Highland Park community. They have extensive relevant experience, gymnastics, early childhood administrative buildings. They had some very innovative designs, and they also did a good job touching on sustainability. Some of their most recent work we know at Northwood and why am I blanking on the other middle school? Edgewood, thank you. That's my middle school. I should know that. Okay, and they also did the Northbrook TPAC building. Williams Architects and Aquatics. They have extensive relevant experience, also gymnastics, early childhood buildings, community centers. They have experience working with a variety of park districts in our area. They have innovative designs and, again, sustainability. Most recently, they've been on the Glenview Park District Ice Arena. That's like at Lake and Landwehr, I think. So our next steps are our interviews. So we've whittled it down to these 4 finalists, and we're asking these 4 finalists to move to an interview, and we're kind of calling it an interview and design competition, and which will be taking place on November 17th, and that's all day. So our first interview starts at 8:30 in the morning, and the last interview ends at 4:30 p.m. We are the people included in the in the interview are the Park District Executive Director, directors, and myself, the Manager of Planning and Projects. And at this point, we want to open it for discussion, because I know some people, there have been a request to include a board member on those interviews. And so if this is an appropriate time, I can open it up for discussion.
Yeah, so Commissioner Bernstein, I don't know if you want to go commissioner by commissioner to get comments. Traditionally, in selecting an architect or a team of architects and engineers, staff would conduct interviews, keep the board abreast of the interview process, and then report to the board the recommendation and why that recommendation is being made. This is a rather obviously big project. And so there's been some interest in board commissioners attending the interview. It is a very large commitment. So we would understand A, why commissioners might want to be in the interview, but also B, why it may not be prudent from a time perspective, but wanted to open it up to the board members to share their feedback and thoughts about being involved on this November 17th interview process.
Thank you, Executive Director. I will point out, it's my recollection that when Tanucci was selected to do Rosewood Beach, that I'm going to call it a beauty pageant, that there were, I believe, 2 park commissioners sitting in on those architect interviews, but I could be wrong, but that's—
No,
maybe.
Cal, let me jump in
Yeah.
to answer that. We had the beauty contest, if we can use that term, and it was more than just staff and board commissioners. I think we had some members of the Rosewood Beach Task Force, but that's just to open up. But we had, and it was that experience that led me to, and I don't know about others, to request that if we're going to get it down to the people who are going to design this $12 million building, I think that we as the board should be involved in that decision-making to not necessarily to, look at their credentials, which are all great, but everybody so far has been innovative. Okay, let us be wowed by what they present and their attitude toward us, because this is our $12 million we're going to give them. So I was one of the people who, if maybe the only one, who said that the board should be involved, as we have been in the past on the most significant project that I know of that we did.
And I will, in just to follow up as my recommendation, and again, I could correct me, Barney, if I'm wrong, but David Woodhouse wowed us, I believe, in his presentation, showing us those big umbrellas that he did on the south side and things like that when he was selected. And then Andy was not, I don't think he was a full partner at the time when we selected them to do Rosewood. So I'll turn it over to Commissioner Kaplan.
I'll be quick. I personally don't want to be on this committee, and I don't want to make a time commitment I can't hold. But it's a $12 million project that will ultimately be approved by the commissioners. And I think if a commissioner wants to be on the committee and wants to give the time, then I think there's nothing wrong with that. Let him or her do it.
Okay, Brian, you done?
Yep.
Okay, Vice President Grossberg.
Well, I wasn't around for the golf course and for the Rosewood, so I'll just have to take it on what you guys are talking about is what happened. I guess the question is, does it make it better if we're on it, or are we making staff members nervous? Are they looking to us instead of the best decisions? Like, I just don't know if having us there affects it, since we do have to report. They do have to report to us, and we do have to examine it every old way. So, I'm kind of ambivalent about it. If everybody else on the board is for it, I just want to make sure that we're constructively helping in this process, because ultimately it's going to be our decision anyways. So,
But let me add, if I may, just to make this an interactive presentation. If members of the board are not there for some of these presentations, or at least look over all 4 of their visuals, we're not going to know what we missed. And I have every confidence in that our staff will have the same goal, which is to have the best looking building, the most useful building, and then you go on through the whole list. But again, we're going to then spend $12 million on the basis of staff liking the aesthetics or staff liking the personality. And I think for those reasons, we need to have some understanding of what the aesthetic, the visuals are that are presented, not the people, but the visuals and the thoughts and the ideas, so that we can say, yeah, well, that guy was so full of shit, I can't believe what he just said. We could be snowed by Andy because he's a friend of ours, and I don't want that to happen. So that's what I'm saying. I think that board representation has a reason, Terry. That's why
wait, who's Andy?
Andy Tanucci.
Okay, so how would we be less snowed if we're there than if we're not there? I mean, I don't understand.
Someone with intellect and reason is listening to the presentation.
I will say this. Sorry, Jen. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Not at all. Sorry, that was an outburst.
Okay, so before I turn it over to you, Jen, as you walk away, I will point out that one of the rationale, I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong terminology, but the beauty pageant that we eventually led to Woodhouse Tanucci being selected for Rosewood is that the Park District in the past, prior to that, had just been going to one architectural firm, and they were doing all their facilities. They were doing they were doing the city's facilities, and there was a feeling of the board at the time that we kind of got pigeonholed with this one firm, and that really we didn't know what else was out there. And then that's the reason why the board at the time of Rosewood decided let's get some different ideas and get some, instead of just using the same architectural firm over and over again. And that was the reason why the board at the time held that beauty pageant. So, all right. So Jen, I'll turn it over to you, and I apologize for interrupting.
No, you didn't. And here's the thing. You know what? If it seems like it would eliminate some layer of skepticism or obfuscation or just missing something, like a little bit of FOMO, I will take a day. I would love to do it. I'm happy to do it. If you guys think it's a worthwhile experience now from all angles to have a commissioner with you that day, I am more than happy to do it. Super invested in the project. I've lived in that building for the last decade. Totally great. I get that. But I would never want to detract from the work that's going on there. It would purely be then to, listen and thoughtfully, just think about what's being presented and relate that back to fellow commissioners.
Okay. Anybody else? Commissioner Kaplan?
Nope.
Barney?
Oh, I think I've expressed my views and my reasons.
So before I give you my views, Brian Romes, the question for you. Can you just walk us through, once the architect is selected, how is this building going to be designed? Can you just give us in less than 2 minutes what your team's going to be assembled, who's going to be interacting with the architect, and how is the space going to be organized? Who's going to give all that information to the architect, and who's working with the architect?
So once the architect is selected, we will begin the schematic design phase. So even though this is a schematic design competition, that doesn't mean this is going to be used, but that will be the first step. There will be a team of staff that will work with the architectural team, which of course will be the department heads and the planning team associated with this building and administration of this building. And then we would of course work very closely with the facility committee with regular updates on that process.
Could you
So,
specifically tell us the names of the people who are on the team?
oh yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, it's myself. It's going to be Director Recreation and Facilities, Mitch Carr. It'll be Assistant Director of Recreation, Chris Melzewski, Director of Projects and Planning, Jeff Smith, and Manager of Projects and Planning, Amalia Schwartz. And I think that that's the team, correct? Oh, and then our IT manager, Dan Johnson, because we are handling a lot of the IT in-house, actually, and I forgot our manager of facilities, Tony Matsky, since he is going to be working regarding the mechanicals of the site. So I think that would be the team, correct, Amalia? And Amalia, you could speak to the process a little bit if you want to, but if Cal, that's enough of an answer, or Amalia can expand a little bit on the stages once we select an architect. And I will say, after we select this, we also have to select a construction management firm.
Okay, that's getting too much detail. I'm talking about more design than the actual construction. And the reason, and maybe this is if we can have a quick conversation among this, because we have all the board members on here, is what's our vision? Has there been a discussion of what's the vision for the building? Are we looking to just do like a utilitarian type of building, like the golf maintenance building that's behind Hidden Creek, or something similar to the rec center? Or are we looking to make more of a statement or more of an architecturally interesting type of structure, i.e. what we did at Rosewood? I mean, what are we thinking as board members? Because obviously this is significant. Not only is this a significant investment, but this is actually a building that's going to be there hopefully for 75 or 100 years, and it's going to be prominent, obviously, in Southwest Highland Park. And what kind of statement are we trying to make a statement, or is it just going to be we're just trying to build a functional building? But I'll start with Barney on that.
Oh, thank you. And which is why I want to see what the architects are presenting as their first vision in this competition. They've got to be conscious of how it fits in with the community. They have to be conscious of the site. And looking at some of the things that were submitted in the various materials, some of them are very different. Some of them are very interesting. Some of them are like, oh my God, I would never build that anywhere. But that's, personal. The other thing that is bothering me, and I'll just get this out, a lot of what the buildings are that we've been seeing are recreation centers. I think we've seen they have tracks, they have more amenities than the administrative offices and childhood education. Do I want to have something that is attractive? Yes. Do I want to have something that is, going to stick out like a sore thumb? No. But I don't know what the proposals are. That's my thought as to why we should be involved in seeing what the 4 architects propose for a building situated in a residential neighborhood.
Jen, do you have any thoughts?
Jen has a lot of thoughts.
For me, well, I don't speak for me. So I do think for the time that I've been here and since that building, became a beacon for here's where you drop your kids. It's an important central building for things that happen for the park district, right? And we have staff in there. It's our little heartbeat. It's our hub of things that happen. And very cool to move gymnastics to it. There's a lot of opportunity. I'm also thinking about the site as a whole. So I want to work with a group that really listens as we go through iterations of design and that type of thing, I would be interested. Incorporation and really working with the fabric of the area and what's going on over there. And then maybe thinking, about the area as a whole, what it can connect to, how we can have synergies with maybe the schools over there. We've got different programming to consider. So I think it's a lot, and it's things that I've thought about for a while. And that's in terms of vision, I think I do have that as a baseline idea. I don't know necessarily how I feel about each individual design, but that's what the process is for.
All right, thank you, Katie.
I-
I'll get to you as soon as I can. Okay.
Yeah, can
I just want to finish polling the board. Vice President of Grossberg.
Yeah, so I guess I'm hearing different visions for what the board's role. I think I'd feel more comfortable about it if it was more about what Jen is talking about being kind of an ear there and just listening in and not being that intrusive in it. I just want the staff who have degrees and have experience in this sort of thing to be the movers and shakers in this. And I'm just wondering, if somebody could just target, what is the goal of having board members on this? And then I may feel more comfortable about it.
Barney, you want to respond to that?
The goal of the board member being on there is the same way we had input at Rosewood Beach. It's to be able to see through the project and say, this will work for us as a community. We're the representatives of the community. That being the case, we as representatives of the community have perhaps a little bit of a different vision as to what it may be than the staff. I don't know, but I think we just have a duty to know what the 4 presentations were that led to the staff picking one to be the architect for the project.
Brian Kaplan, do you have anything you want to add?
I'm not going to repeat everything you just said. I understand Barney's point, and I'm not sure I see the harm or the problem with him sitting in on meetings and listening.
Okay. So Brian Romes, what are you looking for from us today? Is there anything else? Is there anything else with this? Amalia, is there anything else with this presentation?
I was going to touch on next steps, and one thing I just want to add is as far as the steps that we'll be taking for this project, the visual that's going to be presented is going to be very schematic. That's going to look at massing and layout. It's not really intended to be the jumping off point for this or be what we use for design. The look of the building and the layout of the building will all be determined in a collaborative fashion with inclusion with the community. It's going to have to go through design review. So there will be a number of steps. The visual or even the approach that they share at their interview is intended to give us kind of the team's aesthetic, how they're approaching the site, but it's not going to be what the design is. So I just want that to be clarified there. So yeah, the next steps as far as this process, we're interviewing on the 17th. We're hoping to come to the facility committee on December 2nd with a preferred team recommendation. We'll move to finalizing negotiations on the price because the price isn't part of this process. And then bringing that to the Finance Committee, which I know now is on December on the 8th, so I apologize that wasn't corrected. And then coming to the Park Board on December 16th. So that's the target schedule right now, but that's the last slide I have, and I know that we have somebody from the public, so I'll wrap it up there.
Before we turn to get to that, I know Katie, I'll get to you as soon as I can. My feeling, and I sat back and listened because I really didn't have I didn't know exactly how I felt about this because because we've done this different ways in my tenure on the board. But my feeling on this is one of the reasons why you do this beauty pageant or dog and pony show, whatever you want to call it, is we want to, and I don't know who's listening or watching this, maybe part of the architecture, but one of the things we want to steal ideas from different architectural firms, because some of them have more of an institutional approach, more of them have a more flamboyant approach, and we're kind of like, we want to hear what the different, how different teams or I'm saying different firms view this site, as Jen said, and and maybe one firm views the site holistically, but their concept for the building is kind of off, and another firm is vice versa, and the information that we receive as board members is created from silos that we receive from staff, and I don't see what the downside is from board member or two board members or whoever wants to sit in these interviews if they want to devote the time. I don't see how that hurts the process. I think it only could benefit because it would help provide the rest of the board members who are not going to be present a little more context or another ability to get context as to what other ideas may have been out there, regardless of which firm we select. So unfortunately, I'm tied up that day. I won't be able to be there and I don't think it's fair for us, a board member, just to pop in and pop out. I think that if a board member wants to be there, I think they have to be there for the entire thing. It's only fair to the firms and to everybody to be able to hear everybody, because our staff is going to sit through the entire presentation. So if you're willing to devote, or you have the ability, I should say, I'd love to do it, but if you have the ability to devote your day to listening to all these different presentations, then go at it. But if not, I don't think you should just walk in and hear one and not hear the others. I think that's unfair.
That's a good point, Cal. Cal, that's a good point. And I think the easiest solution is that this is going to be a virtual interview, I assume, anyhow. Just send us the link for the interviews.
No, this will be an in-person interview, but we can record the interview as an option, I believe, and we can send afterwards, so you're able to.
No, that's not good. That's not good.
Or conversely, if one of the board members wants to attend, that's great. So
not attend in person. We need to set up so we can attend virtually. This is getting closer to we're not allowing public meetings. We're not allowing the public, and we're supposed to have remote access to things.
Because you didn't want to, Barney, and we have an entire park district operating in person.
I'm sorry?
Well, I mean, we aren't in person, but the whole park district is operating in person. They work in person. We have classes. We're doing things in person.
Right. Okay. I am.
We're not in person because you didn't want to be in person. I just want to make that clear. I don't.
Okay. I'm sorry. I am not going to sit there in person for this, and I hope that there's a way we could do it. Still have it virtual for attending, just like we do board meetings.
Okay. So let me do this. Let me pause it right here. Let's think about this. I know that Katie wants to address the committee, so I'm not done with this agenda item, but I think I'm gonna I'll turn Katie. Can we activate her, or is there something we have to do so she can address this? Because I know she has another commitment.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Katie.
Hi. Thanks for jumping over to me. I appreciate it. I have to go pick up the little one. So Brian, I received your email and thank you for the detailed update. That definitely kicks things off for us. So I have a couple of questions regarding what you had sent. Let me go ahead and pull this up. So you sent over a nice checklist, I guess you could say, of step-by-step what we would need to do in order to make this happen. And my question is more along the timing of things. So when I listened to your very informative board meeting, you went over the capital fund planned or your budget, and you had listed different priority tiers. So which priority tier would this type of project fall under?
If you have multiple questions, Cal, you can either instruct me to answer them all right now, or I can record the questions and I can get back to you, Katie.
Yeah,
Cal,
Katie, why don't you do that? I'm sorry, I got distracted. Katie, why don't you, probably the best use of everyone's time is that you set up a time with Brian Romes to go through the laundry. He just emailed us the questions or the things that he wants you to address. So why don't we you guys get together, and Brian, and then you come, and then the next facility meeting, if you could do it between now and the next facility meeting, then Brian can come back and we put this on the agenda and Brian can report to us the results of that. I don't want to go through, it's you don't have the time to do it, to spend the time. You have to go pick up your little one. So
yes, that's true. And then I guess I'll just speak high level to the goal of the park and the project. We hosted a block party in our community for Halloween, and we had, gosh, there was probably at one point 70 people that had come through. And tons of young families, lots of new faces, all of them super happy to see this community engagement going on and to meet neighbors. And, you know, I think that would be really at the core of what this type of park could do for the area, especially, you know, in the suburbs, it can be kind of hard to meet new people, but to provide that sense of community is really what we're looking for. And then on my last note for that would be all of us, me in particular, there are many, many young kids, and I would like to see if there's a resolution for this before they essentially get too old to enjoy a park, and to be able to experience, you know, that sense of community that I would like to build for my family. Yes, Brian, I will reach out to you and see if we can schedule a meeting and go over some details. And potentially, I would like to, the project manager side of me would like to see if we could put together a high level timeline to resolve some of these points that you had sent.
Great. So why don't you guys get together, and in the meantime, you know, obviously this is on our radar, and we'll make this an agenda item at the next facility committee meeting, which is
it'll probably be parks and natural areas.
Oh, parks and sorry about that. Parks and natural areas, and then they'll take it from there.
I'll let you know when that meeting is.
Yeah, Kate, I will mention that we've had some success lately with public-private partnerships, and just keep that in your head to make it easier for the district, because obviously you've seen the 5-year capital plan. This is not a line item on there, and there's a lot of other competing interests for our capital dollars. So anything that you can organize, I'm sure, working with Brian Romes and the rest of the people, we'll take it under advisement, so to speak, once we hear back from you and Brian. So I'm just throwing that out there. Unless anybody else wants to say anything. Anybody else?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, great, Katie. So thank you. Go pick up your little one.
Thank you.
And then you'll be in touch with Brian.
All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
Bye.
Okay, just going off script a little bit. So let's back to our other agenda item, which is the we're at Westridge Center request for qualifications RFQ update. I think where we left off is Barney wanted some type of virtual access, and Brian Romes.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, again, I will echo what Brian Kaplan said earlier. If a board member wants to attend these interviews, by all means, no concerns from a staff perspective. And then I think it was Cal's comment, whoever attends one, we believe should attend all, in fairness to the process and those interviewing and those making the final recommendation. I offered one way to do this would be to record all of them so everyone could view the presentations and see what they present. And also somebody could come attend these with us in person. And then Barney had suggested that the option be made for virtual. That was not in our plans to do it virtually. But that was, so that's Barney's recommendation at this point.
Here's
Let me
my
jump.
suggestion.
Well,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Barney, go
right, yeah, I was going to say, maybe what we should do is, if I certainly cannot spend the whole day either, but maybe do send out the invitation so anybody can attend who can, whether it's, you know, who among us who can, record everything, and then basis on the recorded information, we could review it and then interact with the staff on the recommendation. And we might say the staff made a good recommendation. We might have questions, but no conclusion is made. But let's record everything for those who can't attend in person.
Okay, here's my suggestion. I was going to say, it's very similar to that. You know, first of all, you have to check with the firms that they're okay with us recording the meetings, number one. Number two, I'm assuming they're fine, just record it, make it available to commissioners if they want to view it. Number three, in this day and age, I can't believe we can't figure out technologically wise if one of the commissioners wants to attend virtually. I can't believe we can't figure that out. So, and I'll work. And that's only be required if one of the commissioners makes that request. So we have an excellent IT staff, and they'll be able to figure it out. So I think if that's okay with our executive director. I think, is that the consensus of this committee?
I think that works for me.
Okay, everyone give me thumbs up if that's the consensus.
I will send an email out. It sounds like as of this point, the only person who has confirmed they can attend in person is Commissioner Freeman. So I would like to let the committee know who's going to be in the interviews. So I'll confirm that with you, and I will email everybody if there's anybody else who wants to attend all the interviews. The sooner you can let me know, the better, so I can confirm the panel, and then we will plan to record, of course, with permission from the interviewees. So,
Hey,
Okay,
Brian, Brian, last question on this. How much time are you allocating to each of the presenters?
they present for 20 minutes, and then there's questions and answers, I think, for the remaining time, up to a total of 60 minutes, but 20 minutes they present.
Oh, so you're not talking about 8:30 to 4:30 being the whole day. You're talking about it's an hour.
We've allotted an hour and a half for each interview, so we can have that amount of time if we want, if the discussion continues. But there is 30 minutes in between each interview. And
Okay.
if they only go for an hour, then there will be an hour in between each interview.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
And if Amalia, if you could, and you probably already sent this to me, and I apologize because I don't remember reviewing it, but can you send me if hopefully short, 1 page, 2 page, the scope of like the questions that were asked and what you're looking, the framework of the presentation you're looking from them. If you have a series of like a template of questions that you want to ask them or something like that, at least I could, because obviously I can't attend, but maybe I can, if you have a little input in some of the questions that are eventually asked.
That'd be great.
Sure.
Okay. And I promise to look at it. Okay. All right. So
You're recorded.
yes. Okay. Anything else on this? I'm on record here. Shoot. Anything else? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Amalia, for the nice presentation. All right. Next agenda item is Deer Creek Racket Club Solar Panel Update. Director Smith to present.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm here to provide a very brief update on the solar panel project. It's been quite a while since I've spoken about it. Unfortunately, the panels have yet to be installed. I am happy to say that all the solar panels are on site. However, it's been a very slow process with the city permitting. So basically what's happened is there's been quite a bit of back and forth between the installers and the city regarding the layout, structural calculations. There's some slight change requests in the layout of the panels. Now they will be a little more evenly distributed between the two roofs that they're on. Nothing significant though. But I am happy to say that the building department has now approved their portion of the permit, and it has gone to the design review with the planning department. It's anticipated that it'll simply be administrative approval, and we're hoping to actually get that sometime this week, if not early next week. Once that approval is received, the installers will be able to mobilize and be on site within about 2 weeks of that time, and then they'll start the installation. That can take maybe a month, maybe a little longer. It is going to be weather dependent, especially with the installing everything on the roof and putting the system up on the roof to hold the panels. So from there, we should have it operational maybe a month and a half after it begins.
Super.
Any questions?
Questions, comments, anybody? Just raise your hand if you have one. Great. I don't think anybody. Thank Brian Kaplan, because you don't see your face here.
Commissioner
Yes,
Freeman had to leave the meeting.
I'm good.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
For the
cool.
record.
All right. Thanks for the update, Jeff.
All right, thanks a lot.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is Sunset Valley Golf Club project update. Director Smith, Manager Oates to present.
Share my screen real quick.
Oh, he's the manager of the golf course at the Preserve of Highland Park. So we're going to
You guys see
rebrand
that?
this, right?
So I got, real quick, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. So this is just an image currently of the Skokie Canal that runs through the golf course at Sunset Valley. And then quick update, in August at the facility committee meeting, Commissioner Bernstein asked staff to look at opportunities to improve the overall aesthetic appearance of the canal that runs through the course. Staff consulted with V3 and 2 areas were identified: the slope, bank appearance and stabilization in certain areas, and then as well as native restorations through plantings and colorful overseeding. So the proposed limits of work consist of 5,200 linear feet of naturalized bank along the Skokie Canal. There's about 2,600 on each side of the canal. The 2 opportunities identified, one, it's called a soil lift. And basically what that is slope grading, rock and soil wrap installation. That's more costly and it requires permits. That's about $336 a linear foot. Another opportunity to restore the canal is called a native slope restoration. That's no grading is involved and no permitting is required. That is around $46 a linear foot. So the first option, which is a soil lift, and permits are required since the Skokie Canal is considered waters of the U.S. and we are in the floodplain and floodway at the golf course. And it basically the bottom underneath the canal level, the water level, there'll be a rock base, and there'll be a tiered wrapping of vegetative wraps with plantings, plug plantings, and native soil seeds that will be put in there on a tier basis right along the canal bank. And I got pictures in the next slide to show you of that process and how that looks. So the first picture in the upper left-hand column is just the soil lift construction. And then the upper right-hand column is the soil lift, it's the plug plantings as they plant the plugs along the canal bank. And then the bottom 2 pictures are the early establishment and then finally the established look of the canal. This kind of helps, helps with the contour of how the canal looks and improves it, just if there's any erosion along the bank, just improves aesthetically looking, makes it a lot better. The second option that we can do to restore the canal is called a native slope restoration. The first priority would be to stabilize the bank with heavy grasses and plants that are very deep rooted, but maybe not the prettiest or the showiest. And then the second priority would be to concentrate on overseeding with a more colorful plant variety. This option takes some time, basically greater than 3 years to get things established. The slopes on the creek out here at the golf course are very steep, and it can make the establishment a little more challenging. So if we look at an aerial of the canal runs pretty much through the center of the golf course. The areas highlighted in yellow are key areas next to the greens and key sight lines next to tee boxes identified for the soil lift restoration. Approximately linear feet is about 1,470. The estimated construction cost for that is around $493,000. The green highlighted areas is identified were more out of play areas. Those were identified for the native slope restoration. The approximate linear feet is 3,400 square linear feet. Estimated construction cost for that is $157,000. So gathering that feedback and looking at that, just wanted to gather the park board feedback. Wanted to establish a timeline when we would like to do something like this. We need to talk about securing funding opportunities. This is currently not funded in the capital plan, but I think it gives us an opportunity to research grant funding to pay for a project of this scope. And then we get into initiate design and permitting. If we're doing the soil lifts, we'll require permitting and heavy design. So that would be an estimated cost of $68,000. Construction cost for the entire project is estimated at $675,000. And then there would be an annual maintenance fee to keep the weeds down and to maintain the canal to be aesthetically pleasing and what we would like at $61,000 a year. Any questions?
And President Ruttenberg?
Let me come back to this.
Okay, Vice President Grossberg, you still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Terry?
So, yeah, I mean, we all hover over those canals and go, I wish there was something we could do here. I do feel like it is a longer term project. Is there something that can be done, short term just to, I don't know, can we just throw a few more turtles in there so people are distracted by wildlife? Put like a shark in there or something. Like, is there stuff that can be done just like pulled out of the actual canal itself? Are we allowed to do stuff like that?
I think you got to be careful because I think anytime you pull things out, I think technically you need a permit for stuff like that. If we want to do something, I mean, this could be like a 10-year project where we do a little bit every year. And I think in my recommendation, the best way to go would be to do it how the native restoration, which is basically about $46 a linear foot, and just do a little bit over time, whether we budget, I'm just being hypothetically, if we budget $25,000 a year, we just do a little section a year to see how it looks over time.
Okay, so there's nothing we can just kind of, were there any recommendations for just short-term things while we're doing this? Or
I think the short-term, the easiest is the native slope restoration. That would be the easiest, where no permitting is involved and we're not regrading the slope.
Okay.
Anything else, Terry?
No.
Jen, are you on, or she?
No, I mentioned it, but you probably didn't hear me. She had to sign off.
Okay.
And Commissioner Kaplan had to sign off too.
Just us?
Yes, just us. So before I turn it back to Barney, I guess my feeling on it, since I actually brought it up, is, I mean, I got a little sticker shock on this, but I think that if we make this like a 10-year project, I know that the slope is pretty significant in some of these areas. And I'm not so sure how this is going to work. But if we, by the bridges, by some of the tee boxes, if we can try to experiment in those areas and see if this becomes successful, then we can extend it out from there. The facility is very successful, and I think that if we do something very modest to see if it works, I know we're spending money there the next couple of years with the bridges, so I'm not, even though I'm a big supporter of, obviously, of Sunset Valley, I'm not willing to undertake a major project there while we're doing the bridges. However, if we wanted to test it to see if this native slope restoration would work with the slopes of some of these banks, then I think that it's worth the investment. That's my view. Barney, do you have anything?
I'm agreeing that we, not being a golfer, but appreciating the golf course through the eyes of golfers, I think we should do something. And did I hear you say, Ryan, that you thought that we could do the native slope versus the soil lift maybe successfully to make it look better?
I think we should initially start with attempting to do the native slope just from a cost-effective standpoint. And one area that we've identified that we're going to do the bridge first is down by 3, the bridge on 3. So that area in front of the tee box on 3, and then directly right on the other side would be a good area to do that native slope restoration. And then we can kind of see over the next 3 years how well it develops. And then once we get the bridges, because over the next 3 years, I think 2022 through 2024, we are going to do we'll have all new bridges and I'll do cart paths. And we can kind of see how that area develops over those 3 years. And then if it does really well, we can budget through our capital plan 2025 through 2030 or the next 5 years to really develop the canal to make it look aesthetically pleasing.
I think that's the plan I would endorse. And if it turns out that it's so good after doing the first one, you come back and we look at the budget to see if we can just get it all done. Do you need a budget amendment? Well, we don't have the budget yet, do we? So I guess you should put into the 2022 budget, in my opinion, money to do at least a phase of this. Is that what we're trying to achieve? That's how we would do it, isn't it, Brian? We have to get it into the budget.
Based on the feedback we're hearing right now, we can go back and take a look how this would fit into either the capital or operations, or what our timeline would be. We likely wouldn't start this till next fall anyway, until after the first bridges were installed in the spring. So we could always do an amendment in the middle of the year too. We're pretty far into the process, so we don't need to update the budget at this point. I think we got some steps to do in the meantime anyway. So this is good feedback that gives Ryan some direction. Right, Ryan? Does that sound accurate?
Thank you guys very much.
All right, that's good.
Okay. So I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it then. All right. So anything else on this item? Hearing none. Then other business. Is there any other business from staff or board? Oh, did I cut you off, Ryan? Is there anything else you have?
No, I'm done.
Okay, good. Is there any other business then? Is there any other business from the staff or the board, Brian?
I have nothing at this time. So
when's our next meeting?
Our next meeting should be December 2nd, I believe. Is that right? Let me get the calendar.
I have
It's December 2nd.
Yeah.
At 4 o'clock. Okay. So there's no closed session. Anybody else? Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. There's a motion by President Ruttenberg. I guess I can second it as the chair. All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. The meeting's adjourned at 5:24 p.m.